Hello, I'm Phil Svitek, 360 Creative Coach, and welcome to my blog where it's both my mission and my pleasure to highlight my creative journey in hopes of inspiring you and giving you a specific takeaway, all with the intention that your journey can be at least a little bit easier. Now, before I fully dive into things, I would love to invite you to subscribe if you haven't already. That way you get all the various lessons and episodes that I put out right when I put them out. I truly do appreciate you if you just did, and if you already were, even better. So let's dive into things. One of the big things that happened this past week was the Grammys. And I say that because, as has been the case for a number of years at this point, I worked the Grammys. And that's always, that's always a interesting experience for a number of reasons. One, you essentially, even though I'm not like literally front row, you get as a front row of seat to all the things and, the events that happen, right? So let's say Kanye walking down the red carpet with his wife, right? Like you're there in that moment, seeing it happen, getting like all the different perspectives of, do we air this? Do we not? All that kind of stuff. But essentially, just taking a quick step back, my role with the Grammys on Grammy night has been to be part of the YouTube team. So, with these award shows more and more, you can go to their YouTube page and you can see acceptance speeches, red carpet moments and things like that. And unlike most award shows that I'm aware of, the Grammys really puts out quite a lot of content, and you can, see a lot that, some stuff that you didn't even see on TV and stuff like that, like behind the scenes access, audience cameras, again, post-award interviews, acceptance speeches, things of that nature, right? And to the point that we literally have a team that does this. I mean, there's literally 500 clips, if not more, that come in, throughout the whole night that we are responsible for. And so, in essence, I am in the war room of all of this, right? And there's hundreds of us just working in different facets, right? There's like a TikTok team, a Twitter team, and stuff like that. And now, even within our like little sector, right? Let's say there was about 10 of us. There's people working on YouTube shorts, and things of that nature, people cutting together highlight reels and yada, yada. Like there's so much that goes into it. And it really is fascinating. Like the thing that always amazes me about whether it's the Grammys or any other award show really is the fact that it even manages to happen. Like the fact that these shows truly, truly happen is nothing short of a miracle in my opinion. Like it's truly incredible. Like, there's literally like a truck that gets all these cameras ingested. I'm talking like hundreds of cameras. You got, things in the venue. You've got red carpet cameras. You've got all kinds of cameras, right? Like all these different cameras get ingested into this one truck, and that gets, sliced and diced to where it needs to go. And it gets uploaded to these various places, and we're able to access it, then manipulate it and stuff like that. Like, it's amazing, So I'm always in awe of the process. Like I am definitely someone who loves to learn how the sausage is made, and to, be a part of that is truly incredible. Now, at the same time, it's always funny whenever I tell people like, oh, I'm working the Grammys. They always think it's a lot more glamorous than it is. And listen, don't get me wrong. It's a fantastic experience. But as I made mention, you are in the war room, right? So most times, you're either working remotely somewhere, or if you're on site, you're in kind of like a basement with everybody else. And, you're just, your worldview at that moment is a computer screen or multiple computer screens, and just other people, right? And it's almost like, those like clips you might see in TV shows or like stock footage of click farms like in India, where it's just like people just, hundreds of people working at their computers. That's kind of what this is in some sense. And, you're there from the morning till the show ends, and then a few hours after that. So it's quite a long day. You know, honestly, that's the hardest part, is just sitting in a chair for like 14 hours. You know, every now and then you get up, you stretch, you're trying to just, keep your muscles from atrophying, if you will. But yeah, it's overall a fun experience and things like that. Now, the twist of it all, at the end of the day, for me, this is like one job of a few, right? And so there's things that, like, even just on a regular Sunday that I have to like complete, that have to go out by like Monday and stuff like that. And that's not necessarily a choice that I get to make, right? And so it's funny, just in talking with people, like, oh, okay, the Grammys, there must be a lot. And it's like, again, yeah, it is. And it's just like one of a few jobs that I have to like complete for that day. And not that I'm complaining, it's just I'm kind of highlighting the reality of some of this stuff, that if you want to, listen, I don't believe in having to overwork yourself and stuff like that. There is much singularity to the idea of slow and steady wins the race sort of a thing, right? And, it's going to do you no good to burn out, but yeah, I think, like with investing, you have to have multiple streams of income. In terms of building a career, you need multiple facets as well. And so, while that, one Sunday out of every year I know is going to be chaotic, a long day, tiring and all that, you do it because of what it brings, right? Yes, it's an extra paycheck as well, for sure. But, the Grammys has a big notoriety, as kind of I hinted at. You tell people like, oh, I'm working the Grammys, they look at you a little bit differently. And not that that's not my primary goal, but it's a byproduct, right? And it leads to more and more things. And, in fact, like how I got to the Grammys was because of all the work I did beforehand, and so they trust me, they respect me, and they know I deliver for what they need, and that's what ultimately, people want when they're hiring. So yeah, it was another fun experience, and this year it was great. Like a lot, I end up knowing a lot of people that work the Grammys, right? That are close friends. And then of course, like through the experience itself, I meet new people that become friends and stuff like that. But this year it was fun because, someone who generally works the red carpet, they worked with us, not on the YouTube side. She was responsible for something else, but all the same, she was kind of, in the trenches with us. And it was fun to have her experience our side of things, because she'd never experienced that. She'd always been more front facing, on the red carpet. And that was a fun shared experience to be able to commiserate on and so forth. So I really enjoyed that in that way. So yeah, as always, the Grammys is fun. We'll see kind of, what happens throughout the year. And I say that because while I always know that I'm going to be working like Grammy night, the Grammys throughout the year does all kinds of things, right? So they put on events, they go to festivals and things of that nature. And you'd be amazed at how much. So the entity behind the Grammys is the Recording Academy. So the Recording Academy throughout the year does so much in terms of trying to elevate music in all the various aspects it can. And that allows for opportunity to be involved, right? And in fact, one of my close friends that I've worked with, Khalil Abderrahim, he also, works with the Grammys throughout the year, not as an employee, but just, freelance side projects, things of that nature. And this past year, they had a big project that was kind of their showcase piece. It's not out yet, so I have to be very vague about it, but, in time it will be out. And it's something that, took a lot of work, a lot of months of work, and now finally, like, it's coming to fruition. And when it's out there, I'll I'll shout his praises and things like that. But it's amazing, you know, so like it's really rewarding in that way as well to be able to, you know, work on these various things and see how the public ultimately responds to it. Like in many ways, working on Grammy night and publishing that amount of videos, you know, you start to see the view count and, you know, what's really resonating with people. You start to read the comments and see where their head's at, how are they reacting to stuff. And yeah, it's just really fun to be able to just ingest that, if you will. And yeah, just, I don't know. I don't know what it all means for me necessarily or how to like process it, but I always find it fascinating to see people's reactions and, you know, in time reflect upon that and see, you know, what does that mean for my art and, you know, things of that nature, right? So yeah, just a fascinating experience all in all. Shifting gears in terms of the, you know, other stuff that I've been working on creatively, as has been the case for many a months now, my big project itself is the Arbiters, which is a 2D animated feature that I'm putting together. And, you know, this past week, one of the things that I decided to essentially try was to recut the proof of concept trailer that we already had into something different, right? So when we first set out to make what is our 2-minute like trailer, so the idea is that like if the movie was completed, here's what a trailer for it could look like. You know, when we started that journey, that was a year ago, and the script was far different than what it is now. And we always had it in mind that the trailer we had created for that would have the core elements of what we knew, regardless of how many script changes would be. Like, this is the core of the script, and these things won't change. And it's something I'm very proud of. But what I thought about was, okay, you know, like movies have different versions of trailers. So can I make a different version of this trailer to help, you know, just have something different? Like, let me just explore, right? I didn't know if it was going to be just different for different sake or if it would be actually beneficial in terms of helping to sell the movie. So, you know, I didn't necessarily tell anybody, and I was limited obviously by the shots that we have. Normally when you cut a trailer, you have the whole movie to take from. We essentially just made all the shots that we needed for this trailer, imagining what they would have looked like in context of the full movie. So I had, you know, a very limited set of things that I could work with. Now, granted, the good news is we have like 34 different scenes with like 70 different shots in this trailer. So that we had created. So that's a good chunk to work with. But again, you have to work within the limitations of what those shots are and stuff like that. So, you know, I did it as a thought exercise, and, you know, I started taking, you know, essentially my jumping off point was really, I had always been in love with this teaser trailer for The Matrix Reloaded. And it's about like a 1.5 minute teaser. It was the first one for The Matrix Reloaded, and I remember just being so in awe of, like, so excited for that movie, and it always stuck out to me. And really what it is just Morpheus giving this monologue and, you know, overlaid with shots. And so I was like, okay, let me take the few characters that have, you know, really good lines that help, you know, highlight what the narrative is, and, you know, see what I can do with that. And, you know, first the part was, who do I even choose, right? And then it became like a very natural thing to select essentially the story at its core is about two best friends. So, you know, you've got the protagonist and you've got her best friend. And so it became very obvious of like, let me take the dialogue of the best friend, and that will drive the narrative forward. So, you know, through Final Draft, you can just get a character report with their dialogue. So I spit that out and looked at the dialogue that I can, like, you know, pick and choose from and reshape to create this, you know, teaser monologue. Because, you know, as I reference The Matrix Reloaded, like, that monologue that Morpheus gives is not like verbatim in the context, like it's spliced and diced from a few things. Some things are cut out, blah, blah, blah. And it's arranged in a particular way to make it make sense for the teaser, right? So similar in terms of what I had to do, right? So I did that, and then I started, okay, what fits where in terms of the visuals that I already have? And, that oddly enough, like it was a lot easier of a process than I would have imagined. And so it only took a few hours to really do this. And, I just did like the scratch narration myself. I put in temp music and really just made it very bare bones. And I sent it off to the team. I said, here's what I've been trying to do. I have no clue if this is worth pursuing or not, but wanted to get your feedback on it. Let me know what you guys think. Is this just purely just a thought exercise, or is this actually beneficial to us in any way? And so far, the team at least is on the same page of, okay, it might not be exactly right, but it could be worth pursuing. Let's pursue it at least a little bit further to continue seeing, how this thing goes and turns out. And so far, yeah, that's kind of the direction we're going in. And so, I've been just iterating a little bit more, revising the voiceover script itself. And, now we have pretty much like the shots there. What's needed is better graphics. I just use completely like bare bones title card slates. But I'm working with my friend Jonathan Moulton to, give it a little bit more pizzazz. So we need that. Obviously, we need, a performer to do the voiceover. I was going to have one of my actresses do it, Sarah Stretton. But the way I've reworked it is there's one line from a character that she actually was slated to, that she's already played in the original trailer. And so obviously I can't go from her line of dialogue to her line of dialogue if she's playing, two different characters. So yeah, we'll kind of see how that ends up. But it would, either way, in terms of the next round, even if she just records, a secondary temp version of the voiceover, I'm curious to see her performance as a character that, she's not slated to play, right? And just see how she does with it. She's a phenomenal actress for sure. So I'm curious to kind of see how she interprets that character, because it's not something that we've ever talked about. But she knows the character intimately and she knows the story intimately. So it'll be interesting to see. But that's, regardless, the voiceover. And then we have to take the sound design that we already have in terms of, the effects. We have to kind of obviously retime that, add a few different ones based on, how it's reshaped, and then take the music and retime it and so forth, right? So it's not too much work, but definitely some work for sure. But that's kind of what we're looking at. And, it's good that at least it doesn't feel just like a useless thought exercise, that it could have some merit. So that's very exciting. The other thing that we continue to do, is outreach, trying to figure out, who right partners are, how we can get to certain people that are on our dream list and things of that nature, right? Just continuing that and not letting it sort of stall out. And through that, the good news is there's a dream actor that we have for a particular role, that it's still a ways away from them being anywhere near confirmed and signed on to the project. But in terms of all of our past interactions with, other teams and other actors, this has gotten much further in terms of where we're at in the process. And, we've been able to send them a script, which is big. People generally don't request a script until, they are very interested, right? And even to get them to want the script, they've seen our proposed deal for them. They've seen obviously the proof of concept, our pitch deck and stuff like that. So, by all those counts, they like the deal. They're at least interested enough in the story. So now when they read the script, hopefully, it's one of those things that, timing wise, I'm sure is a consideration. Luckily, it's just a voiceover, so it only takes 4 to 5 days and ends up being a pretty decent paycheck for anybody. But I think it'll come down to ultimately, like, do they like the script? And even if they do, sometimes, like, with these types of actors, are they interested in, like, does this feel like a role that they've already played, or do they want to do something different? And I think there's enough there where it takes their strengths, but also infuses enough differentiation that it's not something that they've done in the past, but obviously that's up to them to make the decision on. But fingers crossed, like, it would be a wonderful, wonderful thing to get this actor attached, because then it also starts a domino effect, now, like, assuming that we had that actor, then we could start to say, hey, we've got this person attached. We as part of our outreach, we can highlight that. And not only that, if depending on the level of interest from the actor, they might be able to, push this thing forward themselves as well. Because, as part of our deal, they would have a vested financial interest in it. So it's beyond just like their primary pay to voice it. They would have back end points and things like that. And so, why not? If it's simple enough for them to just, make a connection, sending an email, that could be worthwhile to them, right? Like, it's a low lift, but potentially high reward sort of a thing. So fingers crossed, as I said. And it's always one of those things, when I tell it to kind of, our internal team and more so like people in general, right? And I don't give them the specifics, obviously, but regardless, they're like, oh, when do you think you'll know by? It's like, it's one of those things, like, they can either get back to us right away or it could take months, right? You just, like, you never know. There's nothing in between. It's either right away or months. That's just the way it goes. And so, we'll see how this pans out. But yeah, patience has never been my greatest virtue, but I'm optimistic, and we'll see. And if it doesn't work out, then we'll move on to somebody else and offer them that deal and see if they're interested and kind of continue from there. That's all you can ultimately do. The other thing that, we've been, in addition to just outreach, we've been continuing to figure out, ways to be front-facing, the events we want to attend. And so this past week, I drafted up submissions for the Anime Expo here in Los Angeles, as well as LA Comic-Con. The submissions for Anime Expo, they're already open, so I was able to get that to them. The one for Comic-Con, those submissions aren't open yet, but by drafting it, it's ready to go. So that way, when those submissions open up, we're good to go. So yeah, just kind of continuing the various events that we can continue to be a part of, and that makes sense for the project itself. So yeah, that's that. And then the other thing, I'm more on a personal level that has been fun is, just being more and more healthier. So I've recently gotten into yoga and things like that. And, it's great, it's fun to really kind of attune with my body and do something. Like, I've always been just a soccer player in that regard. Like, I've played various sports, that's how I kind of kept in shape, biking. We used to play basketball as kids, volleyball on the beach, like, whatever the case may be, we used to do it. But I never really gone to the gym and was really, not that thoughtful is the right word, but just kind of having certain intention to make sure that I'm not just overusing one part of my body and paying attention to all the rest. And so yoga's been interesting in that way to really, do something different and see, for example, my right leg, because of soccer, is a lot more flexible than my left leg, because while I can use both legs in soccer. My right leg is my more dominant leg, especially shooting wise, whereas my left leg ends up being more of a plant leg. And so, you start to, just see kind of the distinctions in your own body in that way. So it's been pretty interesting to just be in tune with, right? And stuff like that. So that's kind of a recap of the main things that I've got going on. As always, I'll continue to keep you updated in all the various forums. But, comment down below with any questions you have, whether about the stuff that I talked about or anything else that you would love to see me talk about in the future. I would happily cater more specifically to, your wishes and your desires, because that's the ultimate goal, is to help you out as much as possible. Thank you as always for taking time to tune in. I truly do appreciate you, and hope to see you next time.